Good morning everyone and welcome back to the Two-Headed Wolf gaming channel and Path of Exile 2 as today we continue to work on our Dual-Wield warrior. And we're just one step away from getting to maps. We're gonna be testing our character's power level against Doriani, the end of Act 3 boss on Cruel difficulty level, which shouldn't represent much of a challenge, it's more of a dummy that will test the power level of our character as soon as we upgrade him, because as per usual I've been farming in between the episodes, gathering a bunch of massive skill points, gathering a few pieces of gear, but I haven't used any of it until this point. We're gonna upgrade the character together, we're gonna talk about the different choices that I'm making, and then we're going to test it out. So without further ado, let's start with passive skill points. I managed to gather 19 passive skill points from my farming process, and as you can imagine, I've been looking forward to spending it. And I will start by first of all picking up some nodes, which I spoke about in previous episodes, but never got around to actually doing it because I had to prioritize something else, and some of these choices might not be the most powerful long term, but they will fix some of the problems that I've been having for right now. At any point we can refund them and we can invest them into some other part of this passive skill tree. So let's start over here. I will even open the character screen. And we will start by first of all picking some extra armor and evasion, 12% increase there, and another 20% increase here. But more importantly, 20% increase in stun threshold. As I've been playing the game more and more, I started noticing that, at least for the warrior, with some of these very long wind-up attacks, like rolling slam, leap slam, sunder, as we are getting surrounded by all sorts of mobs, we get interrupted by their attacks. They are stunning us, they're giving us these short stuns. And since we have this really long wind up before we actually make contact, before we damage the enemies, many times we get stopped in our tracks. And that is when, in bad situations, when you are surrounded by some rare monsters, or when you're surrounded, or even if you get surrounded by normal mobs and you have a rare monster that maybe does some chaos damage or something like that, if you can't go through your entire attack to make those explosions happen so you can move out of the way of the chaos damage, you just get killed. So trying to get some stun threshold in the idea that this will not happen too often, especially as we're getting to maps as chaos damage starts to become more and more present. I think we'll need it. That's my theory. We shall see whether this actually turns out to be something good or useful long term, or enough actually, because useful, it will be useful, but will it be enough with the amount of investment that I'm doing right now? So I'm going to pick another 12% increase in stun threshold here, and I'm going to get Unbreaking next, another 30% increase in stun threshold, and we're getting on top of that 30% increase elemental ailment threshold. So this is going to help us avoid some of those elemental ailments, and I think this is another good defensive layer to have. Next we're going to go up here and I'm going to get 10% increased attack damage and another 25% increased attack damage. So we're moving from around 2800 DPS for our main attack to almost 3100 DPS. That is a really nice increase there. And next we're going to get another strength node, and then I'm going to increase our physical damage by 30% from these three nodes, and another 25% here at the end, plus another 5% to increase in our attack speed. So that is going to be really awesome. Let's get these nodes as well. So we're moving from 3100 DPS all the way up to almost 3700 DPS. That is really cool. I am thinking now that I will want to go on our secondary weapon set, which is focused around fire damage. We're gonna get damage penetrate 6% fire resistances, 10% increase in stun buildup, damage penetrates another 5% fire resistances, and then hits that heavy stun inflict fire exposure. So we will be able to do even more fire damage with this one. Fire exposure reduces the enemies' resistances by 20%. So that's really good. Next, I'm thinking that I'll be picking up with the secondary weapons, and since we're focusing with rolling slam and those explosions on area of effects, on AoEs, we're gonna get 8% increased area of effect for attacks, another 8%, a 20% increased area of effect if you've killed recently, and 10% increased area of effect for normal attacks. So overall, this is going to be really good for our secondary weapon set. With the 2 points that are left, let's pick up armor if hit, 20% increased armor if you have been hit recently, and let's also gain this rage when hit, gain 2 rage when hit by an enemy. You know, it's not a crazy amount, but we are getting surrounded quite often, and for every 2 points of rage, that's 2% extra attack damage, so I like it. Let's pick this one up as well. Now I am going to pick up the first weapon set. In this situation, it's considered that this passive skill knows that we've invested in our secondary weapon set will be refunded. So we have a few points to spend and focus around our first weapon set, which is physical damage and armor breaking skills. So I am looking around at this ability right here. Break 40% increased armor and 25% increased physical damage. Since I'm using the first weapon set for fighting rare monsters, like these really tough monsters, and also bosses, I think this might be really good. And with the 2 other points that I have left, I guess I'm going to go for 24% more physical damage. Now let us go through our uncut skill gems, and as you can see I managed to gather a bunch of them between the last episode and this one. And this made me come to a realization that this is not gonna get too exciting from here on out. Because up to level 14 skill gem you can still unlock skills, alright? You try all sorts of combinations, that part is cool. But from here on out, skill gems that I find at higher level will only upgrade the DPS of my current skills. And that is not too exciting. I mean, when I'm thinking about PoE 1, I always looked forward to finding in the end game higher level skill gems or one of those enlightened or empowered skill gems which would push my current build to a whole new power level. But there's nothing like that in PoE 2 at the moment. So I'm really hoping that the developers will think about this problem, will take some of our feedback, and they will manage to bring something which is a bit more exciting on the skill sides of things. So let's start by first of all unlocking one of these skills. Totems, we're not playing with totems right now. For my next character, I'll either make a totem build or I'm going to play a different character class. I'll put it to the vote and I'll let you decide what you want to see more of. So we're gonna pick up Hammer of the Gods. Entrain the ancestors to crush your enemies, manifesting a massive hammer that falls from the sky onto your target, slamming into the ground after a short duration and dealing immense damage based on your weapon. This attack can't be evaded while dual wielding both weapons hit with 30% less damage. Overall, I think like this is a really cool attack. However, we do have one small problem though. If we're looking at the skill panel, we can see that we don't have any extra slot to throw in an extra skill. This is something that can be remedied with either a ring or a piece of gear which has a modifier which provides you with an extra slot, but we don't have that for right now. And I've been looking through the skills and I realized that Leap Slam and Thunder is one of those are one of those skills which I'm not using too often. Leap Slam I still love because I can jump from one part of the map to another. I can cross broken bridges. This has its uses. Thunder, however, because of its very slow wind up, it hasn't been that useful. I've been attacking enemies from a distance with it whenever I couldn't reach them. However, Hammer of the Gods also can be used at range, so that problem goes out of the way. And unless I'm actually throwing in martial tempo, for example, which increases the attack speed by 25%, and try to really focus on the Thunder ability, this is not going to become any better, and I'm not going to use it more often in the end game when things get a bit tougher, more challenging, right? So I'm going to remove this ability, and I'm going to throw in Hammer of the Gods, and we're going to be upgrading this skill in a second. With the other uncut skill gems, of course, I'll be upgrading all of the other abilities which I've been running with at the moment, so I'll see you in a second. Let's go through our buffs next, and I managed to gather another 40 spirit by doing quests. I can now pick up Berserk, where, while active, it strengthens our rage and grants us life leech based on our rage, but causes us to lose life while raging. That means that we lose life while we have rage tokens, but we're not consuming them. And this could be a really cool skill to have if you have enough rage generation. But our build currently does not. It has some rage generation, but we need to be very high on rage in order to get the maximum amount of benefits from the Berserk ability. In order to get that high level of Life Leech, we need to focus our character around Life Leech, and we also need to focus our character around gathering rage. And since we don't, I don't think that this is worth the reservation of spirit. The red banner is a bit cooler. While active, killing enemies with attacks or standing near a unique enemies being bosses, generates valor. When we have enough valor, we put down a banner, and this one will increase our stun threshold, our elemental ailment threshold, and it will also provide us with flask charges. So if you're running through maps and you find yourself that you're lacking in DPS, maybe you didn't find an upgrade either on your skill gems or on your weapon, and you are struggling to fight bosses because you're running out of flasks, then you can run with Red Banner. Because as you are fighting and as you are running low on flask charges, you can put down this Red Banner, it will provide you with charges and it will help you in making it through the battle. We're not gonna pick this one up though either, because for right now I don't really feel like I'm in a situation where I need it. So I'm going to use the buff skill gems in order to upgrade the skills which I'm currently running with. And we're gonna be using the rest of the spirit with support gems towards these auras. Now let's talk about our support gems, and we will start with the buffs. As I said, I do have some spirit to spend, and we can upgrade some of our auras. Scavenge plating I've been using on both weapon sets, Herald of Ash only on the secondary weapon set with fire damage, and Time of Need I've been using on our first weapon set with the physical damage, the set which is used to fighting bosses. And so, Scavenge plating, since I'm using on both weapon sets, we're gonna try to upgrade this one first. And I'm thinking that for Scavenge plating, I want to get Cannibalism, 4% of life recovered on kill while a supported skill is active. I feel like this could have some value. And the other one will be Herbalism, where we get 30% increased recovery from Life Flask while a supported skill is active. This should increase our survivability, and I think it's going to be really cool. With the rest of the spirit, I am thinking of upgrading Herald of Ash, our secondary weapon set, with precision. Because I'm doing these very slow attacks with rolling slam, I want to make sure that we are hitting the enemy. We have the highest chance to do so. On our first weapon set, whenever we're fighting a boss, we're hitting the boss quite often. I don't think we really need to worry on that. But missing mobs while we try to stun them and make them explode can definitely hurt us if we don't have enough accuracy. So let's throw this one in. Let's get to our Mace Strike, which gained an extra gem slot. This is our basic attack, which does physical damage, has armor breaking properties, and it's used against fighting bosses. So in this situation, I am going to pick up Heft. Supported skills have 30% maximum physical damage. And we're moving from 4143 DPS to 4760 DPS. That is a really nice increase there, and I haven't even gotten to gear yet. With the rest of the support gems, we will be empowering Hammer of the Gods, a very powerful attack as far as DPS goes. However, it is very slow to recharge. It has a 24-second cooldown, and thus this is one of those attacks that we will be using in special situation, probably when fighting rare monsters which are really tough or bosses. And I'm thinking that first of all, let's get Second Wind. Supported skills have 50% less cooldown recovery rate, so it's going to be even slower to recharge. However, we will have twice as many uses out of it. So we can start the battle by dropping 2 hammers at once, and then we will wait for it to recharge. So we'll be dealing a lot of damage very quickly, but then we will wait slightly longer to re-empower it or to use it again. And that is fine, we're gonna get Second Wind. With the next point, I'll be picking up Exploit Weakness. Supported skills cannot break armor, however, supported skills consume enemies' fully broken armor to deal 50% more damage. Since we can do that quite well, we are going to be consuming it, in order to do 50% more damage on Hammer of the Gods. I mean, even right now, Hammer of the Gods has 4500 DPS, so if we can get another 2200 DPS out of that. And finally, I'm going to pick up Heavy Swing. Supported skills deal 35% more physical damage, but supported skills have 10% less attack speed. That is fine. That is totally fine by me. Let's pick it up. We are at 55, almost 5600 DPS. I'm looking forward to putting this one to the test. With the skills out of the way, let's get to gear, and as you can see, I've collected a bunch of bases, which I'm hoping that I can craft upon and get something really good out of it. I mean, look at this mace, +3 to the level of all melee skills. If I can get some secondary modifiers on it that are powerful, this will be amazing, but who knows. I'm done with the crafting process, I've gone through everything, and unfortunately it was a really bad day. I mean, on the armor side, I didn't manage to get anything. I managed to get this ring with 29% fire resistance and 11% to all elemental resistances, which is only saved by the fact that I have a secondary ring which is worse, 30% fire resistance and 7% lightning resistance. So this is not a good ring, don't get it mixed, it's better than what I have. You could say it's an upgrade, so hooray for that. Then I had, on the weapon side, I managed to get some success out of it, but I didn't get the perfect modifiers. For this mace, I have 76% increased physical damage with another 20% increased physical damage from the rune. I got +4 to the level of all melee skills and 20% increased stun duration. You know, the stun duration would be take it or leave it, but the other modifiers are really good. I also gained some extra lightning damage, but it doesn't matter for me because I'm still running with brutality, where I deal no elemental damage, but I get 35% more physical damage. Still, it should push our DPS high. We're moving from 4760 DPS to 7548 DPS. So that is a really cool upgrade right there. For my secondary weapon, this didn't turn out too well, adds 8 to 20 physical damage. I have another 20% increased physical damage from the rune, +3 to the level of all melee skills, which is good, +19 to strength, once again good. The cold damage is the same situation, it doesn't apply, so I'm not gonna read it. If I had some chaos orbs to remove one modifier and add another, I would risk it. I would risk it on these weapons in the hopes that I might remove that cold damage and get something else on it. But we're gonna be moving from 7500 DPS all the way to 8300 DPS. So that is a really nice increase. Going from 4700 to 8300, that's good. For the secondary weapon, I don't have a huge upgrade here. I have 44% increased physical damage, adds 37 to 44 fire damage, causes 58% increased stun buildup, and I crafted on in another rune which causes 25% increased stun buildup. Since we're using this one in order to stun enemies with rolling slam and then cause explosions afterwards, it didn't feel like I needed a whole lot of DPS in these situations, and maybe I can just roll with it as it is for the moment. As we can see on the DPS side, it's not gonna be a huge increase, right? Yeah, just about 3 points there. So yeah, not a crazy amount of bonuses, but still, that increased stun build up is going to help us in clearing mobs. And let's go on the map and figure it out. Setup complete. It is now time to fight Doriani.
So, at the eve of the end,
I have to remember that before I do Hammer of the Gods, I will have to break his armor. Actually, he doesn't have a whole lot of armor. So let's see. Yeah, he's already broken. Let's try to do the hammer fall. Stay with me, stay with me. Nice. Look at that damage. How about single attacks? Yeah, we don't even need to do the hammer fall or the hammer of the gods, whatever it's called. I could actually be doing that whenever he's stunned. Like, I could use these opportunities in boss battles to stun them and then do the hammer of the gods. I think that's smarter.
You know why we're here! It happened! It cannot be stopped!
no, I will succeed.
Okay, let's do armor break first.
Allow you to
Wow, like we're breaking the armor, with armor breaking, we're breaking the armor of these enemies with one shot. That is crazy. Let's do another hammer fall here, because he's stunned. Nice. Once again, armor break, one hit and he's out. He's into the negatives too. I guess the amount of DPS is quite high. And in combination with the armor break, it's bringing us to this sort of level of success. And I am quite relaxed. I mean, look at the amount of HP regeneration. I might be scaling that up, since we're running our buffs with life regeneration and it seems like it's keeping us quite capped on health. I think I'm just gonna continue it. Okay, I'll have to avoid this attack. Good. Now I'm jumping back in. One hit, break his armor. And there we have it. It's not a one-shot kill, but it doesn't need to be. Welcome to the end game, a part of the game which I haven't really explored. There's nothing really at the moment that interests me, at least not in this early access version. I have a lot more fun exploring the new classes, the new skill gems, and trying to learn the new mechanics. I feel like that's a lot more fun than going through these waystones, through these maps. I will definitely explore a lot more once the game comes out, but for now, you know, I think it's important to test the character out, to test the combination of skills that we've put together, everything that we've built so far. Throwing it into the maps, it's a true test of the character's potential, because especially when it comes to... Oop, let me pay attention to this one. Let's do Hammerfall here. Nice. We'll try to break the armor again. I'll do another Hammerfall. Beautiful. I feel that going through the cruel difficulty level, like the second time around through the campaign, it's really not that challenging. There's nothing there to truly test your strength. If you have a little knowledge and you've made progress, like if you've gone through the game once, going the second time around through the cruel difficulty level is really not that challenging. I mean, it feels underpowered. So going through the maps, finding different combination of mobs, a lot of them doing chaos damage and things like that, can definitely challenge your build. And trying not only to kill all the monsters as quickly as you can, but also in surviving whatever they throw at you, and they will throw a lot of damage at you. But still, I would say that so far so good. If I'm looking at the current character build, I would say that one problem which I will have to fix will be mana. For right now, whenever I'm using a rolling slam and I'm using bone shatter, I'm using half my mana. Look at this. So that's one attack there. Look, see? So it's pretty much done. Like the mana consumption is high, too high maybe. And there are some solutions, and we will check them out in a second. There are a few nodes around us that would reduce our cost. This one convert mana cost to life cost, and I'm not sure I'm necessarily happy with that. I'm not sure I do want to do this, but you know, it's the closest to us, so maybe it's not a bad idea. Get 10% reduced mana cost of attacks, 18% of skill mana cost converted to life cost, so you know, high cost, but maybe high reward. You can get some more life regeneration in this direction, so maybe this is the right path towards it. Let us try a boss map out. Let's put this one to the test, and let's do it with... where is it? This one. 74% increased amount of magic chests, so fingers crossed that we'll get something good. Increased maps, increased pack size. Monsters have 30% increased accuracy rating. Monsters have 100% increased freeze build-up, ignite chance, and shock chance. So I'm really curious if we can handle this map. Ooh, we have two of them at once. Let's see how we deal with them. I don't want to die here. Let's do a hammerfall. That will consume the... Come on, let's do another hammerfall. You sit with me. Great. That's what I wanted to see. We'll focus on one of them for right now. I think overall I'm doing fine. I'm happy. Okay, do a shout. Let's focus. Time to jump out of danger. A rolling slam once again. Prime enemies for explosions. Okay, one is down. We've gotten a level up as well. Now I just have to focus on him. And at this point I can talk relaxed. Yep, all fine. Let's explode. Done. That's a huge amount of experience. I love that. Maybe we should run a Waystone at tier 3 just to compare it. One last test for this build before we move on. We're going to go on another boss map and we're going to go with a Waystone at tier 3. 98% increased magic pack size, area contains 19 additional packs of Exile monsters, 23% increased pack size, monsters have 40% chance to poison on hit. Of course, I have on my belt the antidote, something which will help us avoid being poisoned. Although, depending on the amount of poison, this is not going to keep up with it. Let me not forget to refill the flasks and let's go forward. Let's see how we're dealing with this. This should be very interesting. Okay, we found our first rare. We taking damage. We have to make sure that we're not sitting on damage. Let's see, ultimate last flask. Okay, we don't need anything from there. I have to say that I don't really like going around the maps and trying to find it like these rare monsters. That is a really boring mission for me. Especially because you don't know exactly where these mobs are. So at times you explore the entire map except for a little corner at the edge of the map, and you have to walk all the way to it to take it out. And I don't know about you, but I find that to be really boring. I mean, it's not boring in the beginning for the first few tries when you have an objective, but at some point when the objective is just to get to a certain tower or to a map where you find the boss or you find the mechanic that you want, at that point running through these maps is boring. And they really have to think of a way to make this more entertaining. When I'm thinking about Path of Exile 1, in the beginning, when I get to maps, most of the time I'm just overpowered. So what I do is that I quickly go through the map, I defeat the boss just to get to the higher tier map. Is that the perfect way to do it? No, of course. Like, if you had the challenge, having more challenge from early on, that would be the best way to do it. But because you don't, you have at least the opportunity to quickly get through the map. In this situation, you do not. And when you want in Path of Exile to just go for the maps, you hunt the bosses, right? And maybe if you're looking for a certain specific boss drop, you go for that particular boss, you farm it. Once you are done with like when you want to get extra levels, when you're farming for some gear, when you're looking for a certain card or a certain base type, then what you're doing is you're gonna go through the entire map and you're gonna clear every mob along the way. So it's not like, I don't know, maybe there are some really high level players which don't farm and they just farm bosses. Maybe that's what they were trying to prevent here. I'm not really sure what exactly is their thinking process. But they really need to make it more entertaining, I would say. Let's see, what do I want to increase? Hammerfall could be good. I think Rolling Slam, Bone Shatter is probably the best. Armor Breaker, I could definitely push it to the next level and it wouldn't be bad. And yeah, sure, let's do the Armor Breaker one. The biggest problem that I have with the endgame at the moment is that there's nothing that I really want from it. Because I'm only getting skill levels which, like earlier, just increases the amount of DPS that I'm doing. That is not entertaining. That is, I am someone who really loves to look at skills. I am someone who plays ARPGs not so much for the end game for the sake of the end game, basically, I don't know, fighting a certain boss or something like that. What I play ARPGs for is the skill combinations or the builds, and also like I want to see the change in looks. That's what I like to see. I want to see the power and I want to see the change in looks. So if there's no armor, new armor that I'm getting at this point of the game, then that's not interesting for me. If I put a build together, yeah, I like to play it up to a certain point when it has the potential to be really good. And at that point, when we're talking about increasing the power by another, I don't know, like play for a few hundred hours and you can increase the power of that build to maybe 50% more, that is not interesting to me. I am never going to do that. I'm always starting a new character. I'm doing something else. Oh, this guy has a lot of armor. Let's see how quickly we can break it. One hit. Hammerfall. Can I keep him here for a second? Nice. We'll do another armor break, another hammerfall. Nice. Is this how other players have made one-shot builds using the hammerfall? Because I have avoided as many spoilers as I could, so I saw that it's somewhere at the top, the one-shot hammerfall builds or something like that, but I haven't looked at skill combinations, so I'm not really sure how this works. And here we are at the end of our journey. I had a lot of fun putting this character together and I had a blast playing it. I've definitely learned a lot in the process of doing so, and I'm really hoping that it was useful for you as well. I think it's a good time to draw some conclusions from it. Does this skill combination work? I would say yes, it does. Having one weapon set which is focused around clearing mobs by stunning them and making them explode is really powerful. And having a secondary weapon set which is focused around taking down tougher enemies like rares and bosses by pushing their armor into the negative and then dealing high levels of physical damage, I feel like that is very powerful. And combining these two weapon sets, perfect. I mean, pretty much perfect. I would say that GGG has done a wonderful job in PoE 2 in implementing this weapon switch. I don't think I've played any other game where it feels so good as this one. Really, a great job. I would say from here on out, on the passive skill tree, there are still plenty of nodes to pick up and maximize the potential of your build. I would say that as a priority, I would go for this attack speed from these 3 nodes. In total, that would be 22% increased attack speed, and that definitely helps with the downside of Rolling Slam or Leap Slam, for example, which is a very slow attack, has a lot of wind up before you actually hit the enemy. So if you can get that extra speed, this definitely helps. You could also go in this direction where you're getting increased armor, 25% increased armor, and 50% of the base armor from equipment is also added to your stun threshold. So that is very powerful as well to, once again, stop you from getting interrupted while you're doing these really large attacks. You could also go with this one, defend with 200% of armor against critical hits. Very powerful as well as defensive capability. Critical hits definitely hurt a lot later on in the game. You could get even more armor with defend with 120% of armor against projectile attacks. Like you could get a lot. You could get some resistances on this side with maximum resistances. I think the main focus will be also to try to get the next points in the ascendancy tree. If I had to give a suggestion, or what I would do is probably go down the shields path, gain 40% base chance to block from equipped shield instead of the shield's value. So that would give us a base 40%, which would be very powerful. We could also go with Turtle Charm, 35% less block chance, however we would block damage from all hits while the shield is not raised, so that is very powerful as well. On the other side, you could go with Warcolor's Bellow. Corpses in your presence explode when you Warcry, dealing 25% of their life as physical damage. This can come in handy in certain situations, especially when fighting rare mobs. As you're stunning them and making them explode, you're left with a lot of corpses around you, right? Around a rare enemy. So if you could use the Warcolor's Bellow, then you could get that extra damage there, which could be powerful, but you would have to test it out. Ignore Warcry cooldowns. For me personally, since this is not a build focused around Warcries, I wouldn't pick it up, so I wouldn't recommend it. Other than that, the rest of the nodes, I would say that they don't really matter. That's what I would do. And from this point of the game, what I would have to do going forward is to keep grinding through the maps, trying to get better and better equipment, higher level of skill gems and all of that. This is not as interesting to me as trying another character out, so here's where you come in. If you want to see me keep pushing this character through the maps and at higher levels, I can keep doing that. I would take your feedback into consideration, and most likely, if people are for this, then I will do it. If not, then I'm going to go on a very different path. We're going to create another character. We're going to go for a different build idea. And with this in mind, I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, do consider leaving a like, as it does help me, help the channel grow. And if you want to support me further, you can do so over on Patreon. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for the support, and I wish you all to have a wonderful day.